Good evening, everyone. At this time, we'll call this regular Richfield City Council meeting of September 26, 2017 to order. First item on the agenda is the open forum. We have one speaker, Ben Sunderland. Mr. Sunderland, could you sign in with your address and name, please, and make sure you speak into the microphone? You have approximately 3 minutes to make your statement, sir.
Hello, my name is Ben Sunderland. I live at 7049 17th Avenue South. And Mayor Elliott, City Council members, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you tonight. As you may be aware, East and South Richfield contain areas of concentrated poverty with 40% or more residents making less than 180% of the federal poverty level. These areas have been expanding over time and have become more numerous across the Twin Cities metro area. Our areas of poverty have been expanding while poverty rates across the metro are decreasing. Why is this so? Although the poverty rates are decreasing, pockets of poverty are growing because our housing stock is becoming less diversified, and city managers across the metro are putting policies in place that ensure economic segregation, which also results in racial and ethnic segregation, an outcome none of us wish to see. The Met Council said that as of 2015, Richfield must plan for at least 121 new affordable housing units between 2020 and 2040 to meet their portion of overall metro demand. Of course, this doesn't take into account the unexpected loss of affordable units from sites like Crossroads, where we lost hundreds. We need to plan now for replacing and building these units, but also put in place a strong regulatory and development framework that protects what we have. I've heard some complain that low-income communities bring crime, and statistics point to this being true, but housing stability is also linked to crime rates. Developers and inattentive and predatory landlords who evict can bring instability. Segregation is also linked to crime rates. Overlaying a race map with areas of concentrated poverty shows that Black and Latino families make up these areas of concern along the western and southern borders of Richfield. Job opportunity is also linked to crime rates. We should make every effort to continue our work to attract jobs that play well for both skilled and unskilled laborers. We should not blame the low-income person for the crime in their neighborhoods. Low and no-income people deserve representation and full inclusion into our representative processes, especially as we make plans for the future of Richfield. Our model of development cannot be lily-white gentrified in Eden Prairie or the West End. It must look more like Eat Street, Midtown Global Market, or the Hmong Village in St. Paul. Places where old and new development exists, along with multiple racial and ethnic groups and a variety of income levels, freely intermixing cultures, economic opportunities, and are supported through government services. So I cheer the efforts of City Councilor Maria Gonzalez, Mike Howard, and others in city government who've made strong efforts to reach out to low-income residents in many local apartment communities, and for the council as a whole for beginning discussions and putting forward a strong vision for development that protects all residents, no matter their socioeconomic status. I would ask that the City Council members continue those efforts. The Met Council calls for furthering fair housing and housing anti-discrimination policies, so I'd impress on the Council to continue to consider policies that protect Section 8 and other low-income recipients, but not allowing discrimination based off of source of income. But I'd also hope that we have resources to support the homeless through sheltering, social service delivery, and helping to provide a path to economic and family stability. They also call for building wealth and expanding investment in areas of concentrated poverty. And of course, we're working to do that with areas like the Chamberlain development. And we cannot depend on a West End type strategy of bulldozing whole communities in favor of strip malls with chain stores. Rather, we need places where the community is invested and has space, where people evicted due to redevelopment are giving housing assistance, and that for every low-income housing unit we lose, we ensure it's rebuilt, surrounded by new economic opportunities and opportunities for community building relevant to our residents' cultural backgrounds.
Mr. Sunderland, it's about time to close.
I support these calls from the Met Council and support the work you're doing to these ends in the Chamberlain development. Again, I thank you for prioritizing the needs of low-income communities in your planning and outreach, and want to be clear that this planning is just one small part of what low-income and homeless community members need from us. I hope that you'll go further to ensure that our affordable housing stock, that we are not pegging or depending solely on definitions of affordability that are related to the federal poverty level, but also to minimum wage to ensure that somebody making minimum wage in the city of Richfield at 500 can afford an apartment at $500 a month, as well as somebody making double that. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate the comments. If everyone would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I would move the approval of the minutes of the Special Joint City Council, Housing and Redevelopment Authority, and Planning Commission work session of August 21st, 2017. The Special Joint City Council, Housing and Redevelopment Authority, and Economic Development Authority work session of August 21st, 2017. Jared, you repeated me. Special City Council meeting of September 6, 2017, Special City Council work session of September 12, 2017, and the regular City Council meeting of September 12, 2017.
So moved.
Okay.
We did that in reverse order, but we're good.
The approval has been moved and passed. Next item on the agenda is the City Council's taking up the consideration of an approval of a resolution supporting the Richfield Public Schools 2017 levy referendums. We have discussed this from the dais a couple of times, but I think once again, I don't think we can ever discuss it enough. So comments from the City Council in regards to whether or not we should consider the approval of a resolution supporting the Richfield Public Schools levy referendums. Councilmember Reagan Gonzalez.
I don't have too much to say on this. I feel like I've been pretty clear in my support for the referendum and the levy, so I am in support of a resolution on behalf of the City Council.
Councilmember Howard.
I don't have too much to add either. I'll just thank all the Richfield residents and parents that are engaging the community in the discussion around this. I know there was an active group having many good conversations at PennFest, for example, and are continuing to talk about it. So I would just encourage residents, if they have questions, to reach out to their neighbors, to friends, to talk about why this is important to Richfield schools. And it's an important conversation to have in an odd year like this. An election isn't the first things on people's minds. So just thank you to all the folks that are getting outreach out and having conversations about why this is so important.
Councilmember Garcia.
Kids are an investment that will pay off for years to come. Education has always been a value that we hold high, and we must continue to support our schools, our teachers, our facilities, and more important than anything else is our students. So please support this referendum. We support it wholeheartedly, and we ask that you join us in this endeavor.
Councilmember Troutman.
I would just add that we've supported it with our rhetoric. We've also supported it in being judicious with our budget, and we'd invite the city to join us in supporting our kids and our community.
As I indicated, we've spoken loud and proud about our schools and the necessity of the referendum. With that being said, I'm going to read the resolution and then move it for approval. This is a resolution supporting Richfield Public School District 280 levy referendums. Whereas Richfield Public Schools receive between $450 and $1,100 fewer per student operating referendum funds than neighboring districts. And whereas Richfield Public Schools proposes to revoke a $964.60 per pupil operating levy and replace it with a $1,414.60 per pupil operating levy to keep pace with neighboring districts. And whereas Richfield Public School buildings were built in the 1950s and 60s, and there has been no voter-approved capital improvement since 1995. And whereas Richfield Public Schools proposes an $86.8 million capital bond levy to complete deferred maintenance and improvements to the buildings and grounds. And whereas successful passage of both levy referendums will help support Richfield students, increase student achievement consistent with community expectations, increase and improve safety, security, and traffic flow, and support improvements in educational space, science labs, and common areas. And whereas the City Council is open to and supportive of all avenues of cooperation and collaboration with the Richfield schools, and whereas the City Council understands the importance of a strong school system in order to attract and keep families, thereby assuring the future of our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Richfield City Council supports both the increased operating levy referendum and the capital bond levy referendum on November 7, 2017 for Richfield School District 280, encourages residents to vote yes on both ballot questions. Adopted by this City Council of the City of Richfield, Minnesota, this 26th day of September 2017. I would move acceptance of the resolution at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The resolution is passed. Thank you all. Next item on the agenda is we have annual meetings with our various commissions, and today, or this evening, we're honored to have the Community Services Commission to present their annual report to us.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. My name's, is this on? I guess it is. Okay. My name is Reed Bornholt. I'm the current chair of the Community Services Commission, and I'm here to report on our activities for the past year. Very busy commission. Always have a full agenda, so. We've prioritized the proposed capital projects and recommended council approval for the annual CIP or capital improvement plan. That included discussion around changes regarding the ice arena refrigeration and upgrade project. Participated in the parks master plan revision process. We reviewed and approved the final design for the new park entrance signs. And we've received a number of good comments from them. I think they were pretty well received, and it was very good discussions in our group led to that, I believe. Also, we approved a proposal for the installation of some new benches in Monroe Park to be dedicated to the honor of the memory of a Richfield High School graduate. In particular, these benches are intended to be used for sledding on the sledding hill at Monroe. Yeah, I think Jim, you said that was a meeting with the requester, and we'll hopefully get that ready for this winter. We also approved revisions to our guidelines and procedures for issuing permits application or considering permit applications for events using our public streets like races and that sort of thing. We voted in favor. We supported the Nicollet Avenue crosswalk pilot project. We also approved a plan to install a canoe and kayak kiosk and launch in Taft Park in partnership with the Three Rivers Park District. We reviewed and recommended for council approval an animal trapping ordinance as was prepared by the Public Safety Department. We also reviewed updates to the guidelines for the bike master plan that City Engineering Division put forward. Customary each year also to appoint a couple of new and reappoint some members to the Fowl Board, Friends of Wood Lake Nature Center. And most recently, we've been continuing to gather for some time information regarding the possibility of organized garbage collection, and we had a presentation this last month regarding organic waste collection in addition to what we're doing. The Community Services Commission also heard updates from various city staff members, for instance, regarding the gypsy moth control population control program and the continued efforts to achieve the criteria necessary for the Green Steps city program. Our May meeting, we were fortunate to hold it at the Richfield Pool and had a very informative tour of the facility. Our commission, I believe, is no different than the others. We appoint liaisons from our commission to various other groups in the city, including the Planning Commission, Transportation Commission, Arts Commission, Friendship City Commission, the Friends of Wood Lake Board, and our Honoring All Veterans Memorial Board. In the upcoming year, the Community Services Commission will prioritize capital improvement items keep looking at those. We'll continue participation in the Parks Master Plan revision process, and we'll continue studying the organic waste collection issue. So that's our main accomplishments. This will be my last report to the council. I want to thank the council for appointing me the past 9 years to this commission. And I really do, I say it every year, that I really encourage all residents that are interested to get involved with commissions. A little bit partial to this one, but any of the commissions will give a really good insight into what the city does and how to get involved, help us improve and get better. And last but certainly not least, I'm indebted to our, deeply indebted to our Richfield Services, our Recreational Services Director, Jim Toppetsofer, and his entire team. Their department is continuously a professional, talented, and very valuable resource for our city. And they make the job of this commission chair a lot better. So, are there any questions?
Thank you, Chair. I would just suggest that you're the master of understatement in what the Community Service Commission does and accomplishes. Just by the statement of what you've done this past year shows you touch on all corners of the city in all respects. And it's the reason it's one of the most sought-after commission seats in the city. So we appreciate your 9 years. You've done a wonderful job. The entire commission really touches on so many different aspects, from gypsy moths to meetings at the pool. I may look for a seat myself, thank you. But no, your commission, like all the commissions, serve an invaluable duty to the citizens of city. It's all volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
You spend a lot of time, a lot of effort in what you do, and we sincerely appreciate it. And you give us a lot of the information we need to make our decisions. So that's appreciated by us, and I'm certain appreciated by the citizens also. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
You're here.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say to Reed, you know, I know that you and I have this relationship where we're always ribbing each other, but that's kind of to be expected because we've known each other for a long time. But I really have appreciated your service. You have done just a terrific job, and you've just gone way beyond what I think most volunteers do, because you can be seen in just everywhere in the city of Richfield, and you're not shy about rolling up your sleeves and working, or about any time we need some participation in some doing, in some activity going on, you're there. And just want you to know that there's other commissions beside community services, and I would suggest that that I, for one, would look forward to having you apply, because I think you just are just kind of, if you wanted to call volunteer, ideal, we have a lot of them, but I think you'd be at the top of the list. So thank you very much.
Anyone else? Thanks again. At this time, we'll move on to Hats Off to Hometown Hits, and I've been it's been suggested to me under threats of excommunication that if Councilmember Garcia doesn't get to lead off, I'm going to be excommunicated. So please.
See, I feel like I got punished because I always had so many at the beginning, and then so that everybody could have a chance, I got put to the last. So, but I think I've worked my way to be reconsidered again here. So, okay. First off, speaking of the school referendum, the League of Women Voters will have their candidate forum, and that's coming up on the 30th of this month. It'll start at 9 a.m. and go to 11 a.m. Besides the candidates, the superintendent will also do, a whole description of the referendum and how it'll impact all the residents in Richfield. So please come to that. That's really, really important that we support a referendum and that we elect the best candidates possible to represent us on the school board. Second, the Pines, which is located on 400 West 67th Street, they always have these little forums that help the public. Most of them are senior citizens, but other folks that are disabled also benefit a lot. And this one it's geez, I didn't put the date, but whenever, but it'll be at 1 o'clock whenever it must. I will look it up, or you can look it up too. It's at the Pines, and the topic will be prevention of the falls. People fall a lot, and that's due to many reasons. So it's kind of a guiding you about how to arrange your house and how to take care of yourself to prevent falls. Okay, the third thing is the Great Pumpkin Giveaway, which is Saturday, October the 14th, from 10 o'clock till noon. And that is, if you bring your child, you'll get a free pumpkin, you get face painting, snacks, refreshments, and there'll be a photo booth too. So take advantage of that. You know, that's a lot of fun, and that will be at, is it Fairview? At Fairview, Fairwood Park. Thank you, Jim. And also on September the 30th is the band shell groundbreaking, and that will take place from 9:30 to 10. You'll have music from the high school bands, Northern Winds, Richfield Symphonic Band. Please bring your lawn chairs. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a great chance to be part of the groundbreaking ceremony. So we look forward to that. Thank you, Jim and Reed, for getting that off the ground. Appreciate it.
Quick question, Jim. Is that time correct? I thought that they had moved it back so that people that wanted to go to the forum could attend and still go to the groundbreaking.
No, we sticked with the original time. The actual ceremony is at 10 o'clock, but the band shows up at 9:30 to start playing, so come early with your chair and enjoy the music.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Troutman?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Elliott. Two things I wanted to just recognize. Had an opportunity to attend a communications meeting at the Gramercy Apartments with Jack Bros, and I want to thank our communications or our transportation department for doing a great job of communicating the changes that are coming with the roundabouts. I know there's some anxiousness on the part of some of our citizens, and just want to publicly thank Mr. Bros and that whole department for the great work that they're doing and the communication that they're doing, because it is a big change. But the biggest hats off today is for just an incredibly successful Pen Fest this last week. For those that didn't have to have a chance to attend, we had about 10,000 citizens and folks from various communities up and down Penn Avenue, almost from one side of our city to the other side. So it was really an opportunity for us to show ourselves at our best. Particularly, I want to thank our commissions for getting out there and volunteering, for folks that put it together, like David Gepner and Gordon Hansen and many other volunteers, and the numerous business owners and even small business owners. We had a number of small business owners, photographers, folks selling clothes that were there. So there were no gaps this year from one side of Richfield to the other. It was a great event, perfect weather, and if you didn't have a chance to go, next year you should come and have a great time.
Thank you. Councilmember Reagan Gonzalez.
I have two items tonight. One is I just want to say thank you to everyone who made the closing of Seasons Park possible on September 7th and closed on the property. And we had a great celebration and press conference last week. And it was just really nice to see the residents there. I talked to several residents who felt relieved that they could stay in their homes. And AN will be putting in over $4 million worth of updates to the property. And it was just a great collaboration between so many people across the city and even across the state. So thank you to everyone who was involved. And last week also was the kickoff of the Police Citizens Academy, and I was able to attend after one of our meetings. So this year, the Richfield Citizens Police Academy has 34 participants, and Just to give you a little bit of a description of what it is, in case you're interested in participating in future years. There's 5 class sessions, and residents learn. First, they meet several of our police officers, and then they learn about different areas within our police department, such as the communications. They learn about the patrol procedures, criminal and special investigations, traffic enforcement, canine services, SWAT, the Hennepin County Crime Lab, Joint Community Police Partnership, the Police Reserve and Explorer Volunteer Program, CERT, and then policing challenges that they're facing in 2017. So it's a really great in-depth look at our police department and all of the work that they do for our citizens of Richfield. So that was a really fun kickoff last week, and that is it.
Thank you. Councilmember Howard.
A few items. One, tag along on PennFest. I want to thank all the city staff that was there. I wanted to say hi, but I couldn't get a word in edgewise because every time I walked by the booth, staff were engrossed in conversations with residents. It seems like people really had a desire to engage with their staff and understand what's going on with the city. So thank you to all the staff that many people here were out in force on that beautiful day. They've seemed to order up good weather every year for that, so knock on wood for next year. A few items. I want to mention the home tour on October 7th. That's from 1 to 5 p.m. And that's a chance to view some of the homes that have been remodeled in Richfield and a spotlight on some of our home remodeling initiatives at the city level. And so I know you can get some good ideas for remodeling projects of your own and see some beautiful homes in Richfield. And you can visit the website richfieldmn.gov/home tour for more details. We've already mentioned pumpkins, and the pumpkin patch at Vets Park is beginning soon. And Jim, is it this weekend that it opens, or what? I forgot the darn date for pumpkin patch.
I'm going to have to look that up. I think it is this weekend, but I want to make sure, so let me look that up.
All right, I've got a few items,
Okay.
other items. We've already heard about the joy of serving on commissions, and this is the last week that our youth can apply to serve on our commissions. There's several open spots, so for folks that have high school students at home or know of them, go to our website. It's on our homepage, the application, and we've in recent years expanded youth applications for our commissions, and I think that's been a great service to get more youth involved and have them get a taste of what city government's like. And then we've mentioned the referendum, and there's just as a sense of how these elections get on top of us, you can already vote early, I believe, at City Hall. That's another area I was going to look up the hours for that, but I don't see that on the front page of our website. So maybe that's something we can get up for folks to come to City Hall. It's usually during business hours. I think it's 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, something like that, to vote early if you want to take care of that before Election Day. That's all my items.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to follow up on a couple of Councilmember Howard's. In regards to the PennFest, keep it at a personal level. 2 of my sisters attended and then had stopped by my house after they left it. And I've been touting open streets ever since we've had it. And they accused me of keeping it a secret from them. They both live in Richfield, but I'm keeping secrets from them, if you can imagine that. But they were ecstatic at the turnout and the variety of things to see and food to eat and other things to do. And just to give you some indication that the 5 people up here, our service to the community is never done. My sister and I were riding our bikes past the food trucks, and the Hennepin County Horse Patrol had preceded us and caused a bit of consternation for the people running the trucks. And you have to understand, my sister has been taking care of me for well in excess of 60 years. She got off the bike, and there was a lady who lived on the corner and sitting out, and I think she was really, really sweet, but she had to be 90 years old, went up and asked if she had a shovel and a broom. And her and the lady went out back. The next thing I know, I've got the broom, she's got the shovel, and we're going down Penn Avenue cleaning up the horse poop. And, you know, and to just give you some understanding of the family dynamics, I never have been and never will be in a position to say no to her. So it was going to happen, pure and simple.
That's a full-service mayor right there.
But in regards to the renovation celebration, I think it's only appropriate to name the 6 sponsors that are putting on the tour. They include E.J. Hansen, AIA, Sikora Design Build, Parsley Builders, Deborah Baldwin of Mortgage Capital, Steve Schneeberger of Keller Williams Realty, and the Center for Energy and Environment. So these are 6 homes that have had significant renovation, and if you didn't go last year, go and take a look what you can do with some of the housing stock in Richfield with the assistance of the city and a good contractor. The last thing is perhaps more mundane, but extremely important to our city. The Richfield Police Department conducted their annual tobacco compliance check on 23 businesses that hold licenses to sell tobacco in the city, and there was not one sale to an underage person at any of the 23. So I think you need to congratulate our police department for going out and keeping an eye on illegal sales of anything within the city. So,
Mayor Elliott? Oh.
I was gonna say, I have one quick update for those on the edge of their seat
And
about the
JT
pumpkin
wanted-
patch.
wanted to update something.
It does open it's Saturday and Sundays, beginning this Saturday, from 10 a.m. to sunset at Veterans Park. Activities include mini golf, a 22-foot super slide, bouncy houses, inflatables, hay rides, and all kinds of fun.
And I just had one event to add. October 12th, put it on your calendars. It's the Richfield Foundation wine tasting event. This is our big fundraiser every year for the Richfield Foundation. If you're not familiar with the Richfield Foundation, if there's somebody doing good in Richfield, the Richfield Foundation is probably supporting them. So if you have, if the idea of sampling and up to, not all of them, but we have over 200 wines that are going to be there. It's going to be an amazing event. And you'll be able to support a lot of the good that happens in Richfield October 12th. Thanks.
thank you. At this time, I would move approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item number 5, consent calendar. We'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For those in the audience, both here, excuse me, and at home, the consent calendar contains several separate items which are acted upon by the city council in one motion. And once the consent calendar has been approved, all the recommended actions on these items is concluded and no further action is necessary. Tonight, we begin with item A, which is consideration of the approval of a resolution designating the city's contribution towards health, dental, term life, and disability insurance premiums for general services and management employees for 2018. Item B, consideration of the approval of a resolution authorizing the refunding of the $4,550,000 general obligation capital improvement plan bonds, Series 2009A, dated January 14th, 2009, with the $3,205,000 general obligation capital improvement plan refunding bond, Series 2017B. For those at home, that refunding basically means we're replacing one set of bonds with a new set of bonds. That means we're going to be saving something like roughly I'm guessing around $30,000 a year in debt service payments. Item C, consideration of the approval of resolution approving a deferral of special assessments against an owner-occupied property. Item D, consideration of the approval of resolution authorizing the issuance of special permits for extended liquor sales hours during the Super Bowl 2018. Item E, consideration of a temporary on-sale intoxicating liquor license for the Richfield Foundation wine tasting event to take place on Thursday, October 12th, 2017 in the atrium area of Woodlake Center located at 6601 Lindell Avenue South. Item F is consideration of the approval of the 2017-18 contract with City of Bloomington using Public Health Emergency Preparedness Grant funds distributed by a federal grant from the Centers for Disease Control to provide services in the area of public health emergency preparedness, bioterrorism, and the development of a response system. Item G is consideration of the approval of a resolution authorizing acceptance of a grant received by the Richfield Recreation Services Department from Hennepin County for youth sports equipment in the amount of $3,158, and to authorize the Recreation Services Director to execute the associated grant agreement. Item H is consideration of the approval of a resolution certifying delinquent water, sanitary sewer, and stormwater charges to the Hennepin County Auditor. Item I is consideration of a resolution declaring costs to be assessed for unpaid false alarm user fees against private property. Item J is consideration of a resolution declaring costs to be assessed for current services performed for weed elimination from private property and removal or elimination of public health or safety hazards from private property. And finally, item K, consideration of the approval of a work proposal from Bar Engineering for stormwater infrastructure assessment services. And that concludes tonight's consent calendar.
Thank you. I will move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consent calendar is passed. Councilmember Howard has the next item.
I just have the continuation of a public hearing to consider a resolution granting approval of the final plat of the Cedar Point Commons Second Edition to October 24th, 2017. The City Council approved final development plans and a preliminary plat for the Cedar Point Commons Second Edition on August 23rd, 2016. Since that time, the retail business has been constructed and opened, and plans for a daycare user for the northern half of the site have continued to move forward. A final plat application has been received and reviewed. The property owner, Hempel Companies, is working to address final plat comments from the city, Hennepin County, and Three Rivers Park District. They expect to submit revised plans in time for the October 24th, 2017 meeting. So my motion is to continue a public hearing to consider approval of a final plat for the Cedar Point Commons Second Edition to October 24th, 2017.
This is a public hearing. Does anybody care to step to the podium and comment?
Is it to, if we're just continuing it, do we?
Beg your pardon?
Mr. Mayor and Council, I think the motion is to continue and hold the
Oh,
public
okay, we're
hearing
moving it over
on
to the
October
next.
24th.
Got it.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Did you move?
I think I made the motion.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
So the public hearing is continued to October 24th, 2017. Item 8, Councilmember Regan Gonzalez.
The next item for council consideration is the consideration of a number of land use requests to allow construction of a new housing development to include 284 new housing units, 33 rehabbed housing units, and 2 block extension of Richfield Parkway between 66th and 68th Street along 18th Avenue. Inland Development Partners is proposing to build 3 new apartment buildings and renovate 3 existing apartment buildings. The applicant is requesting a change in the city's comprehensive plan and zoning designation in order to make this possible. The city began work to redevelop this area in 2002 in reaction to a runway expansion at Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport. A combination of market factors stalled this work. Inland first approached the city with preliminary plans for the development of approximately 300 apartments in the Cedar Corridor on September 22, 2015. This proposal and potential impact of the tunnel under Highway 77 prompted the city to revisit the 2004 Cedar Corridor Master Plan. Since that time, the comprehensive plan update and the project have moved forward somewhat concurrently. The proposed project would be the first new multi-unit family apartment project constructed on the city's east side since 1971. The project addresses the noise vibration issues that originally prompted redevelopment by providing a buffer to the older single-family homes to the west, but also addresses a number of current goals and policies of the Cedar Corridor Master Plan. To establish a renewed brand at the signature gateway of the city, to increase the diversity of housing options, and to encourage the rehabilitation and replacement of the lowest quality housing stock. As part of the master plan update, the alignment of Richfield Parkway moved from Cedar Avenue to 18th Avenue. This, combined with the city's increased focus on the preservation of existing affordable housing, has shaped the placement and design of the proposed buildings. While removal of the existing 3 buildings would allow the project to shift to the east and eliminate the need for a comprehensive plan amendment, both staff and the developer feel that the renovation would be a better choice that will preserve existing affordable units and avoid displacing current residents. The 3 buildings will fully incorporate into the development, and tenants will have access to all amenities of the new building. The proposed project attempts to mimic the general architecture of the nearby housing and exceeds minimum setback requirements in order to minimize shadow on adjacent single-family properties. The development is attractively designed with significant landscaping and minimal views of surface parking lots. Landscaping throughout the project is extensive and includes 3 existing buildings along Cedar Avenue. These properties will receive the foundation planting and parking lot screening that are required of any new development. The project provides nearly double the required outdoor space for the project of this size, and impervious surface is well below allowable limits. All apartment residents will have access to a number of amenities that are desired and expected in new construction, but found in few properties in Richfield, including a dog area, pool, outdoor terrace, community gardens, playground, exercise and group fitness rooms, and common space/club room. The development has been designed using CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design strategies, and the developer has met with the city's crime prevention specialist to ensure they are taking the steps necessary to maintain a safe environment. Traffic will be well below that which was anticipated when Richfield Parkway/66th Street roundabout was constructed on-site parking along Richfield Parkway will help to slow traffic on this important bicycle and pedestrian route. The proposal also designates space for public art. During the past several weeks, City Council members had forwarded staff a number of questions and concerns arising from their constituents. Staff have responded to all of these requests and have compiled the questions or comments and answers or feedback into a document entitled Neighborhood and Council Member Concerns and Questions attached. Please note that the answers shown in varying colors or font depending on which specific set of questions was being addressed. A public hearing was held before the Planning Commission on August 28th, 2017. The Commission recommended approval of the proposal.
Councilmember Reagan, if I can just interrupt you
Yes.
for a minute. I just need to make an announcement to the home viewers. I've been advised that our audio visual is mostly audio and not a whole lot of visual this evening. So I just wanted the constituents in the homes to know that we've got 5 cameras, 1 is operational. So we're all here, you're just not seeing us all. So
Okay.
I'm sorry for
Excellent.
the interruption.
No problem. So before we move to a vote and the motions, there's a couple items that we want to make sure we cover. So there are some residents here from the neighborhood that we wanted to make sure they had time to come and speak if they would like. This is not a public hearing, but we are allowing people to come and speak if they'd like to come. Before we move to that part, we have 2 letters that we were asked to read for public record, and I will be reading one, and the mayor will be reading the second. So this is from Inland Development Partners to the City Council in the City of Richfield. Dear Honorable Mayor and Council members, on Thursday, September 21st, Council members Regan Gonzalez and Howard moderated a neighborhood meeting that included representatives from Inland Development Partners representing the Chamberlain, a joint venture between Inland Development Partners, Cross Anderson, hereafter the Chamberlain, and several concerned residents adjacent to the proposed Chamberlain development. We believe the conversation was very productive and beneficial. At the meeting, Chamberlain communicated a commitment to working with the neighborhood going forward during the final stages of the project design and into construction. The purpose of this letter is to acknowledge areas of specific commitment for ongoing discussion with both the City of Richfield and our neighbors, including 1, to work with neighbors on the placing of fencing and landscaping where possible from a design perspective and consistent with city ordinances along the property perimeter of the development. The purpose of this activity is to deter on-street parking in the adjacent neighborhood and maximize buffer effects. 2, to work with neighbors on developing measures that may buffer the effects of headlights of vehicles entering the underground parking garages. 3, Chamberlain will employ a third-party property inspection company before commencing construction to inspect individual single-family homes adjacent to the construction site of the apartment project. Chamberlain will compensate homeowners who have completed a home inspection in advance of construction commencement for any damages that may be related to apartment construction activities. Specific homes eligible for home inspection are the 8 homes on the east side of 17th Avenue South between 67th and 68th Streets, and the approximate 5 homes on the west side of 17th Avenue South between 66th and 67th Street. 4. Chamberlain will continue conversation with adjacent neighbors on the placement and hours of operations of the playground and dog park. 5. IDP will continue to meet with city officials and neighbors during the final design phases of the project and during project construction. 6. The Chamberlain's property management company will implement a dog pet policy that includes the following key components. Develop a list of restricted aggressive dog breeds, establish a weight and number limitation, and incentives to pet owners who complete a canine good citizen training program. We are committed to the Chamberlain being a good neighbor and a great addition to the city of Richfield. We appreciate the leadership provided by council members Regan, Gonzalez, and Howard, and look forward to continued discussions and mutually beneficial activities with the neighbors and the city as the city project progresses.
Thank you. I'm going to read a letter that's addressed to myself and the members of the Richfield City Council by Marty Kirsch. He asked that we read this to the constituents this evening. Mr. Kirsch is a long-time public service official for the city. He's done more things than can be counted, including acting as mayor and being one of the driving forces behind our what we now call our downtown in the 66th and Lindale area. He's participated in commissions. If you come to city council meetings, city planning commission meetings, everything, you'll see him sat in the back row in the corner. Marty couldn't be here tonight, so once again he asked that I read this to the constituents. Dear Honorable Mayor and council members, I am not able to attend the city council meeting on Tuesday, September 26th, and wish to express my support for the Chamberlain project and ask that you approve this project. Since the late 1990s, the city of Richfield has planned for redevelopment of the east side of Richfield that protects neighborhoods from the negative impacts of low-frequency noise generated by the airport. The Chamberlain is the first step in this redevelopment effort. Chamberlain consists of larger buildings built to modern construction standards that can withstand low-frequency noise levels much better than smaller single-family homes. Developers of the Chamberlain have worked with the city of Richfield and neighbors for the past 2 years to design a project that is a welcomed addition to the east side of Richfield. The Chamberlain includes a variety of modern amenities and apartment design not seen on the east side for at least 40 years. The Chamberlain will bring new residents to the east side of Richfield, keep in place 33 units of affordable housing, and provide 31 units of additional affordable housing. These new residents will support our churches, schools, and local government institutions. These new residents also will support Richfield's local business community. The Chamberlain will add needed tax base and user fee revenue to the city of Richfield. The Chamberlain will spur future development on the east side of Richfield, and it is my sincere belief that the Chamberlain will spur a development renaissance on the east side of Richfield. I respectfully urge you to approve the development plans for the Chamberlain. Sincerely, Marty Kirsch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, we will open it up if anyone would like to come and give some brief remarks. And if possible, please keep them brief, and then also make sure that you're not repeating anything anyone else has said, either residents or I see the developers are here as well. Would anyone like to come up? Does she sign in and state her name?
Please.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. I was pleased to hear the letter that the developer has written, but my concern is the development in this area is the low frequency noise, the placement of the buildings. In the comprehensive plan, it they're supposed to be strategically placed, kind of like how Target is placed. It's one solid buffer, whereas here there are breaks, especially like where my house is. It's totally open, so that's not going to give me any buffer from the low frequency noise. I'll just have more impact from the development. They're supposed to use airport compatible uses, and the traffic, we're concerned about the traffic, putting 66 to 1 lane and having over 10 new businesses and having that overflow into, our streets. That's a big concern of ours. I guess that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come up and speak?
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Rosalie Heinrich. I live at 6638 16th Avenue. My home will not be directly impacted by what's happening with the Chamberlain construction, but my neighbors' homes will be. Just kind of want to walk you through a scenario. You're a young family, you bought a new home, you're super excited. You spend every dime that you have extra building a little patio in the backyard. Maybe you've got a few extra bucks to hang some lighting. You bring your first child home. It's a great experience. You're super excited. They start to grow. They bring their friends home. They go to your backyard and they like to play. Maybe you've gotten a little extra money, bought a hot tub, and you threw it back there. And you invite your neighbors over. You have a glass of wine. You're sitting in the backyard. You're enjoying your hot tub. Maybe there's a tragedy in your family, and they've all gathered at your home. And they find respite in your backyard with your garden and your fountain and a quiet place to sit together and reflect. Maybe it's a joyous occasion. Maybe someone's getting married and there's going to be a shower and a bridal shower in your backyard, and you've invited all your friends, and you're having this fabulous celebration and you're super excited. You've built a privacy fence, so you shouldn't have to worry about what you're doing in your backyard. It's your backyard. It's your private space. Your front yard, that's common space. They'll have people that drive by, they walk by and wave. They might stop if you're sitting on the porch. But when you go into your backyard, you feel a sense of privacy. You feel like you don't have to worry that everyone is watching you. This building will be more than 35 feet tall. It will have 3 balconies, the whole length. I don't even know how many units that will be. They'll all be watching me in my backyard. They'll watch me if I want to go in my backyard and have a cup of coffee on my patio. Maybe I'm in my pajamas. Maybe I want to put on that ugly bathing suit from 1985 and I want to go weed my garden. Everyone will be able to watch me. I will suddenly be living in a fishbowl. My family will be living in a fishbowl. When we gather to be happy, when we gather to mourn, when we gather to celebrate, when we just want to sneak away in the backyard, my hubby and I, maybe we'll want to steal a kiss. Somebody will be watching because we'll be living in a fishbowl. Not me personally, but the people that live on that street. Everyone who has a balcony will be able to sit out on their balcony and they'll be able to watch me or them. My only other request would be, have a couple. I would like to request a list of every variance that you are granting to the developer on this project. I don't feel that that's an unreasonable request. I'd like to know if that's possible to do. I also would like to request a current traffic study. The traffic will be crazy. You're removing 30 homes and putting in almost 300 apartments. That in itself is going to be, I can't even imagine. And also I'd like to request a current airport noise study. Some of this communication and some of this building project has a lot to do with the airport and the noise. I would like to see a study done to see if a building of this height, of this magnitude, is actually needed to do what you're saying that it needs to do, which is protect us from airport noise. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else before we move? I think it would be nice to hear from staff, but I just want to make sure there's nobody else that would like to come and speak.
I'm Christine Whaley, and I'm at 6638 South 17th, so we'll be directly across from the apartments. And Rosalie painted a very good picture. Actually, kind of brought me to tears thinking about it, because that's actually the story of our life and how what we've actually gone through in living in this home that has the white fence in the backyard for privacy, as well as one in the front. And there are multiple reasons why we are. You know, I'm in agreement for the apartments and things to be across, and I know that we've talked about, you know, the building and what it's going to look like, and that is very important to me, the landscaping. And the beauty of it is if you come into our home is one that could be on the remodeled show or the remodeled tour. And it's very peaceful, and we bring people in our home who are mourning and who are grieving. And so, we have been affected so far by the traffic. Our actual, and speaking of, I think you guys had mentioned that there'll be compensation for any damage done to the properties when this rebuilding and construction's happened. Well, already our driveway is ruined from that traffic that's already been down our block because there's been so much. My friend who reconstructed this whole home and did an amazing job. If you come over, I would love for you to come over and see. There's already tons of scuff marks all over the driveway. We know that that's going to happen, but it hasn't happened in several years. The home is mint condition, and already we have to put our there's a lot of traffic, and it's affected our family greatly. But I just was thinking, I wasn't thinking about me when I was thinking about coming up here until Rosalie painted that picture, and that is my life. That's the story of our life. We have a ministry from our home, and the peace and the privacy, people don't receive that, and they really, great things are happening within our home, and we love that peace and that. So we know that there is more traffic on our block already. I would request, if this is going to go into effect, that there are no parking signs, like signs that say no parking across from our road, because right now, there are a lot of people who walk, a lot of people who bike every single morning from 5 o'clock until the whole night through in front of our area. So I'm appreciative of the bike path and the construction that's going into that, or the walking path. I think that's great for the community to connect those people who are working and on the bus. It's more safe that way rather than having them walk down the street even right now with people who are angry about the construction and driving and crazy. And I've noticed a lot more, I hate to use the term riffraff, but there is that going on a lot more down the block. I've noticed people that never come down that block. So I'm seeing more, I'm familiar with gang stuff and all that. So like the people that are driving down the street, I notice that it's a different group of people, or there's just a lot more traffic. I would propose like the peaceful garden. I'm thankful for that. If there's these apartments across from us, I want it to be peaceful. I want it to look nice. But also in thinking about Jeannie, that area where that buffer is, and just hearing about a dog park and a pool and even a park. I would love a park for my child, but I realize that there's so many parks within our community that we can go to, and those people across the street who are going to be in these apartments, they can travel, take the bike path down to Taft Park or even to Christian Park. There's multiple parks. We don't need another park right there. And also the noise level for that will be outrageous if there's a lot of children in the community. We walked through that whole situation where we just came from, and having a park right across the street from us. And so for me personally, I feel like that we would even take the Richfield, the Richfield pool is down the way. That would bring more income to the Richfield pool. We use it, it's great. I just suggest just keeping that peace. It is so incredibly peaceful right there. And our neighbors, we really value that. And that keeps the community knit and kind of weave together. And then as long as there's like these bike paths and things like that, people can actually just, use that and get out more rather than just being in that apartment or that complex and just in that little thing. They can get out. So there are a list of facilities if there's a need for those, there's other things that can be implemented rather than a park, a pool, and a dog park. There's other amenities that people would be attracted to. So I thought of some ideas, and I can share them at another time. They're on my notes here, but, exercise room, indoors, like an infrared indoor sauna, things like that are going to promote healing to their bodies, a community room, an outdoor garden, swinging area like the Centennial Lakes, where the people are actually working there. It's very peaceful around there. That's kind of what came to mind as well. And promoting the work ethic. And I noticed that the 33 apartments, I've been driving through the community. I've been going into the community and working with the people
Excuse me, sorry for
Yeah.
interrupting. Mr. Mayor, are we getting close to the time? I want to make sure that we
Oh yeah,
stick.
there's another person, yeah.
So,
Okay, no
sorry,
problem.
if you can
So
wrap
anyhow,
up.
those are my comments. Thank you so much for listening, and yeah, appreciate
Thank
y'all.
you. Thank you. Anybody else who would like to comment? Yeah, okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Bob Cunningham. I'm one of the partners on the development. And I just wanted to take a moment and express how pleased and proud we are to be presenting the Chamberlain to the City Council this evening. That project, as it's proposed, has a lot of effort, a lot of thought, and not just on the part of the development team, but on the part of city staff. And I'd like to specifically thank Council Members Howard and Reagan Gonzalez for setting up the neighbor meeting. The letter was read a little bit earlier, so I won't go over that again, but we are committed to delivering a quality and enduring quality to the east side of the city of Richfield in terms of the Chamberlain Housing Project. We are going to be saving 33 units of affordable housing and substantially rehabbing the buildings. A couple of comments that were made this evening regarding noise and regarding traffic. We did submit to the city staff earlier today a very, very brief update on a traffic study that showed that the traffic that would be generated by this project at both AM and PM peak hours is roughly 200 cars per day, and that's substantially below any impacts that would happen on 66th Street. And the other thing that I just wanted to mention to some of the neighbors is there are no entrances to the project on any of the facades of the building that face any of the single-family residential to the west. All the comings and goings of our tenants will be through the entrances that are on the east side of the buildings that are on, that are on the west side, if that makes any sense. And the building that's on the east side, the entrance, they're all off of Richfield Parkway, in other words. But I did want to make myself available to answer any questions that council may have now or later after the staff presentation. So thank you very much.
Thank you. John, would you like to add anything from staff perspective?
Sure, thank you. Just a couple of things that were brought up tonight. And as been mentioned, there was a neighborhood meeting on Thursday. And it was a great dialogue. It was actually the fifth meeting to which the neighborhood has been invited. There were open houses at Mount Calvary Lutheran Church on 4 other occasions, as well as the public hearing at the Planning Commission and other opportunities for input. So one of the issues that was brought up tonight, a question, was how many variances are being sought for this. This is an unusual project in that it's a very large project, obviously, only 2 variances are being sought, and that's very unusual for a project of this size to be seeking so few variances, and they're fairly minor. The building height, they're seeking a variance. The the allowed building height is 35 feet, and they are seeking 38 feet, so it's a 3-foot increase. And then the second variance they're seeking is on parking. The requirement of the city is that 1.25 parking spaces per unit be provided on site, so that does not include the on-street parking in the development. So 1.25 is required. 1.24 is being requested. So if you were to multiply that 0.01 parking spaces by the number of units, they're really, I think, 3 or 4 spaces short from what the city code would require. And that's the sum total of the variances being requested. There's a question about a traffic study, and Mr. Cunningham mentioned it. Maybe it would help if I put a little more detail to that. So when the roundabout was constructed in 2005, a traffic study was done to see how much traffic the roundabout could handle, and there were some assumptions made. One of the assumptions was that there would be 910 vehicles using the parkway just south of the roundabout. So the current existing traffic there is about 235, so it can absorb a little under 700 more trips. The project that's being proposed, utilizing the Institute of Transportation Engineers traffic count data, would have just shy of 200 trips. Mr. Cunningham said per day. That's not exactly right. It's how transportation engineers measure trips is during peak hours. So either during the morning peak or the afternoon peak. And in both of those peaks, it varies from 161 to 196 trips. And again, it could accommodate an additional 670 or so. So what this project would be generating is far less than the 2005 roundabout study said that the roundabout and Richfield Parkway could accommodate. There was a question about an airport noise study. Obviously, this whole project was precipitated by an airport noise study that was very comprehensive, very complex. That is not a study that Richfield undertook. It's a study that the MAC, with the assistance of the FAA, undertook. And so staff cannot speak for the MAC or the FAA on whether they would be willing to do another study. I can tell you that they have ongoing monitoring. There is a monitor actually on the site that the developer is proposing to build upon. I think they're working with MAC to relocate the monitor a little bit so that there is ongoing monitoring going on there. But a study like that would exceed the scope of what the city of Richfield could do. Also coming out of the meeting on Thursday, there were a couple of follow-up items that I had committed to. One is a question about if there was parking overflow, or it turned out there was insufficient parking for this project, what would happen? The answer is a couple of things. One is with every project that happens, there are bugs. There are, consequences or outcomes that we weren't anticipating. One example of this is on Aldrich Avenue. There were townhomes built there between 76th and 77th, and one of the results was some very area-specific areas where people were parking that was too much for the neighborhood to really feel comfortable with, that was not anticipated. So in working with the developer and with the police department and with our public works department, there were some changes made to the parking there in terms of signage and hours of parking. So that would be the first thing that would happen, to see through working with signage or working with changing the hours of parking or areas where people are allowed to park, if that would address any concerns. Another would be for the development to find additional places to park. And what I'd shared at the neighborhood meeting was several years ago, the building at 66th and Cedar, the office building there, which has gone by many names, Decision One or CDP, the building where Vinacopia is located. They had expressed to staff about 2 years ago that they were vastly overparked, that they had a lot of underutilized spaces in there. And at that time, they had expressed some willingness to lease out spaces to users that might be interested. That was something I have looked into. I've inquired with the property owner there. I have not heard back the answer. There was also a question about lighting standards, and a lighting plan would be required for this. From what I hear from other communities and from our building department, is Richfield has one of the most stringent lighting requirements in all of the metro area, and I provided the neighbors with the language from the lighting plan. There were a few other questions as well that I've forwarded to at least a couple of the council members. I don't know that any of them were that pressing. So with that, any other questions you might have, I would be happy to address.
One comment that I would like to make on the traffic, I know that was one of the issues. So one was traffic projections with the Chamberlain, and that's something that you and the developer talked about and updated the study regarding in relation to the number of cars that would be at the Chamberlain. The second piece of the traffic was once the development is occupied and traffic flows change with all of the changes coming to East Side, which is inevitable, there will be changes in traffic patterns. I did talk to Director Asher about what we could do following, and it was shared that based on resident complaints and feedback and changes that we have in traffic patterns, the city, as always, will continue to be responsive and look at different mitigation options and changes necessary. But that is something that is going to happen once we see these changes moving forward. So I just wanted to add that. So before we take a vote, are there any comments from council members that people would like to share?
I'll make a few, and I want to thank the residents that came and spoke and have engaged in the dialogue with everyone at Inland, and I want to thank the folks from Inland for attending that meeting and submitting this letter. I think one concern for residents is, not just that they'll hear things are going to be met, but they'll see this kind of commitment. And I think the letter does a great job of laying that out. And I think there absolutely is a earnest effort on the part of Inland to work with neighbors and residents on this project and improve it. I think there's no doubt that the input and questions of residents in the area have improved it and will improve it. I want to thank staff for addressing some of those questions and committing to as this moves forward, as John mentioned, work out the bugs. There's no question, that there may be some. And I just want to comment on a couple things before we take the vote. Something that jumped out at me, that this is the first new multifamily apartment complex on the east side since 1971, since Richard Nixon was the president of the United States. That's just astounding that, and it's time for progress on the east side. There's just no question. And I've mentioned this before, when I was door knocking throughout the city and the east side, when I was running for office 3 years ago now, the common refrain I heard on the east side was, when are we going to see something new on the east side? When are we going to see development? We see it on the west side. When are we going to see something? That was by far the number one thing that I heard from residents. And this represents progress. And it is change. Change is difficult, and it requires us as neighbors to be neighborly and work together, and I think there's an earnest effort to do that here. But there are just many positive elements of this development that makes Richfield stronger. We have a huge need for housing in the metro area, a range of housing needs. And this development is going to offer new market rate apartments. That's a huge need. It is going to offer more affordable units. That's a huge need. And it's a need, it's adding a value to Richfield that is not already present there. It's already mentioned, but a huge positive of this development is that we are going to rehab and not displace residents on the east side in some of our naturally occurring affordable housing units. This is the right way to do development, to improve upon the quality of our affordable housing without displacing residents and respecting our neighbors and being neighborly. You know, this just really is, I think, smart, progressive, future-oriented development that's fitting for a city that's on the rise. And so it really is time to move forward, and this is a development that moves Richfield forward. And again, I want to thank the residents and thank the developers for their commitment to continue working together, because this is the beginning, not the end.
Thank you, Councilman.
I just wanted to say, I wanted to thank the two East Side council members. But the one thing that's really impressive about what's happening on the east side is that there's really a lot of transparency. You know, we have residents and staff and council members and developers that really come together and try to work out the issues. Not everyone's going to be happy with the results, but we have to move forward. And I think we're doing a good job, and the transparency issue is really clear, and I applaud, you know, Mr. Stark and his folks, and certainly our two East Side council members for working hard and doing their due diligence and making this happen.
And I'd only briefly add, I'm grateful to our residents for reaching out, even though I'm not an East Side council member, but inviting me into the conversation and sharing their concerns and explaining things that I wasn't aware of until I heard those concerns. I also want to thank the developer for timely being able to address some of those concerns. I understand some of the concerns are outstanding and some of them we weren't able to address. But I also want to thank my fellow council members, both Reagan Gonzalez and Howard, for working so hard and putting in a lot of extra hours. Projects like this require a lot of hours by a lot of people. So to our residents and to our staff and to my colleagues, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Change is almost always disconcerting, and it has different effects on different people depending on how close you are to the change. I think one of the things that has been proven true here, and I guess I'm not going to take issue with Councilmember Garcia talking about east side versus west side or anything. I think the reality is that Councilmember Reagan Gonzalez represents Ward 3 and Councilmember Howard is at large. The reality is I don't know that there's any one of us up here that views their duties to one particular geographical area, whether it's east or west. We certainly have more passion, perhaps, and we advocate harder for our ward, like I did for Ward 1, like Councilmember Reagan Gonzalez does for Ward 3. At the end of the day, when we're up here taking a vote, and I think in this particular situation, I got an email asking and outlining some of the things that have been talked about this evening. And my suggestion was some of those are solvable, some aren't. What we need to do is make sure we solve those things we can, and the ones that aren't, we try to accommodate them as best possible. And in the long run, the vote up here is not to remove the privacy that you enjoy in your neighborhood, remove the ability to walk out your back door. It's to try to take and balance the equities of having a major new development that we haven't had since 1971 against exactly what you're telling us, the perception or the reality of the invasion of some of the privacy you have in your own backyard. I can't sugarcoat that and say, you know, sometimes development and growth does that to some neighborhoods. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm hoping that you'll find everybody over there to be good neighbors. You'll find some of the amenities which is represented are going to be available to you and your families, and that there becomes a synergy that develops between your new neighbors and where you're at, and the privacy will change, but perhaps the vibrancy of the neighborhood and some of the other excitement that's coming into your neighborhood may be a benefit to the neighborhood. We don't know. But at the end of the day, the vote we take up here doesn't represent Ward 1, 2, or 3, the city at large. It represents the entire Richfield that is our concern, and we're trying to move forward and working with developers and working with the neighbors as much as we possibly can to make those improvements or to solve the problems. But sometimes progress hurts, and I think it's an old saying, you stay stagnant, you deteriorate, and you die. We need to keep up with our neighbors. We need to continue to move forward as a community, and these developments are exactly what we need. So it's with an understanding that you're uncomfortable with some of the things that are happening around you, but hopefully in the long run you recognize the benefit not only to your neighborhood but to the community at large, because that's what we're charged with doing. So I thank you for your patience, I thank you for your information, and I thank you for being willing to continue to work with the developers to try to express to them your concerns and recognize how hard they've done to be able to address the ones they can. None of us can accomplish everything we want to. But I think there's been a sincere effort on both sides to meet in the middle as much as possible, and to that, I thank you all.
You know, and I wanted to make clear, Mayor, too, that it's not kind of natural whenever a development goes in either whatever ward that people call their respective council members, whether they, you know, and Mr. Howard lives on the east side, so it's, you know, they kind of feel like they've got, they're double dipping somehow. But I do believe that all of us take to heart, you know, the whole city. I mean, you know, we're such a small community that we all care what happens, and we're all neighbors to each other, whether we live on the east side or the west side or the middle. And we all care about our community. And the good thing about it is that, you know, you're able to call. I always, you know, when folks call me, then they ask me, well, who else can I call? I always say, well, feel free to call the mayor or your council member at large. And I always have their numbers handy. But, you know, any one of us that gets called, we'll all, you know, take responsibility for doing some follow-up. So don't hesitate to call all of us, because we're all, you know, we're very proud of our city, and we're very proud of where we're going. I think we're headed in the right direction.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Before, I just want to add a couple things. Everything I have to say has already been said by all of you tonight. So first of all, I just want to say thank you to all of the residents, all the neighbors, the staff, the developer, everybody who has been involved, other council members, in working together over the years to make this happen. And we know that redevelopment has been slated for the east side for a very long time. And another thing that does pain me is to talk to my neighbors who have been awaiting in limbo for 10, 15 years for development to come, not knowing when it is coming, and the feelings that and the issues that they face with kind of not knowing. So I am extremely excited about this development, and I do agree that it is important to keep growing and keep moving forward and making sure that as we welcome these changes to our community, that they are completely integrated into Richfield, into our values, into our culture, and making sure that they're good neighbors. And we have all committed to working together, and we're going to continue to do that. So this is not the last step. This isn't the first step. It is one of many steps moving forward that is going to serve the city of Richfield, the east side neighbors, our businesses, our families, our schools, and our community. So we have 3 separate motions tonight that we will be voting on separately. So I would like to see if there is a motion to approve an amendment for the city's comprehensive plan designating lots 1 through 8, block 3, Wexler's Addition, as mixed use.
So moved.
Second. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
First motion is passed.
And the second motion is to approve an ordinance amending Appendix 1 of the Richfield City Code to change the zoning designation of lots 4 through 13, Block 2, lots 1 through 8, Block 3, lots 1 through 16, Blocks 4, all in Wexler's addition from mixed-use, community, and multi-use residential together with the Cedar Avenue Corridor Overlay District to planned multi-family residential.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Zoning amendment is passed.
And the final motion is to cancel public hearing to consider approval of a preliminary plat.
Second.
On that one, could we just have an explanation of what we're doing there when we're canceling the public hearing?
Yep, there are still some issues to be worked through with Hennepin County on the plating requirements. So we will come back to you with that at a later time.
All in favor?
Aye.
The three motions were moved, seconded, and passed.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item number 9, Councilmember Troutman.
Yes, this is the second reading of a consideration for the approval of an ordinance that would make small wireless facilities conditional use in single-family residential districts in consideration of a resolution authorizing summary publication of said ordinance. So this, like we talked about last meeting, there was a work session back in July 25th that explained that the legislature had passed a law granting telecommunications right-of-way users the right to install these facilities and limited to a significant extent our ability to regulate them or to put a moratorium to study the effects of the small wireless facilities. With that being said, this would give us a modicum of control and influence on that process. And so the recommendation is, and I would move that we approve the ordinance of making small wireless facilities a conditional use in the single-family R and R1 districts, and approve a resolution authorizing summary publication of the ordinance making small wireless facilities a conditional use in the single-family R1 and R districts.
Second.
Any comments? I would just suggest that modicum is the operative word because we denied this the first time it came up and we were spanked by Big Brother, told we couldn't do it any longer, otherwise we would. So modicum is the operative word.
It's unfortunate, Mr. Mayor, that the video's not working, so our citizens can't grasp our displeasure.
Yeah. We'll continue to voice it as we point them out as we drive down the street. The motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion's passed. Claims and payroll.
No, the city manager.
I'm sorry. I always forget him. He talked so much in the beginning, I thought he had to have been talked out. City manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I really don't have a report tonight. You must be clairvoyant and would have known that ahead of time.
That too. Claims
Mr.
and
Mayor,
payroll.
I will move claims and payroll.
I will second it. All in favor?
Aye.
There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.